In the heart of summer, Ethan and Mia celebrated their 5th wedding anniversary with a road trip across the scenic routes of the Pacific Northwest. Their journey was more than a celebration. It was a testament to their adventurous spirits and undying love for each other. The couple had always thrived on spontaneity and the thrill of discovery, making this trip the perfect embodiment of their relationship. Their car was packed with essentials and a playlist of their favorite songs, each track a milestone in their journey together. As they drove, the world outside transformed from the bustling cityscape to serene landscapes, with towering trees and distant mountains painting a breathtaking backdrop. Ethan, with his unwavering optimism, and Mia, with her infectious laughter, sang along to their favorite song, Lost in the Moment. It was their song, one that held memories of their early days, filled with promises and dreams. However, in their bliss they missed the critical exit that would have led them to their intended destination. Miles passed before they realized their mistake, but neither Ethan nor Mia let this dampen their spirits. They saw it as just another adventure, another story to tell. But as twilight approached, the realization of their predicament settled in as the car's dashboard illuminated the dire warning of an almost empty fuel tank. The fuel gauge alarmingly neared empty, and with no gas station in sight and their mobile phones bereft of signal, anxiety crept in. The road, once a symbol of freedom, now felt like an unending loop of uncertainty. Ethan attempted to mask his concern with a reassurance that seemed more for his sake than Mia's, suggesting a gas station might be just around the bend. Mia, ever the realist, couldn't help but voice the gnawing fear that they were far from any semblance of rescue. Their journey into uncertainty took a definitive turn when the engine stuttered its last breath, leaving them stranded in an expanse of wilderness that seemed to swallow them whole. The road, once a ribbon of possibilities, now felt like a deserted vein through an indifferent heart of darkness. Surrounded by thick vegetation, and with the sun dipping below the horizon, they faced the reality of their situation. They were utterly isolated, with not a single vehicle passing by or any sign of civilization. As the last hues of sunset faded, Ethan and Mia found themselves ensnared in an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant howls of unseen animals. Their initial optimism had waned, giving way to a creeping unease. The missed exit, once a trivial oversight, now loomed over them like a harbinger of misfortune. With no cell signal to call for help, and the night rapidly consuming the last of the day's light, they faced a stark choice. Ethan proposed they stay in the car until morning, hoping for a passing vehicle. However, Mia, driven by a mix of fear and the need to act, suggested they seek help themselves. Despite Ethan's hesitations, the silent agreement that their fate was in their own hands propelled them into the unknown. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and the dwindling hope of finding help, they ventured into the forest. The decision was not made lightly. Both understood the risks, but were driven by the primal need for safety and the faint hope of finding a signal to contact the outside world. The forest, a thick tapestry of shadows and whispers, seemed to close in around them. Every snap of a twig underfoot or rustle of leaves above sent shivers down their spines. Yet they pressed on, guided by the dim light of their flashlight and the occasional clearings under the moon's gaze. Their journey was a test of endurance and faith. They navigated through underbrush, over fallen logs and across shallow streams, driven by the desperate hope of finding signs of civilization. It was in this labyrinth of nature, far from the world they knew, that they stumbled upon the cabin. Its appearance was both startling and surreal, a beacon of hope amidst the oppressive embrace of the forest. The well-kept exterior, with light seeping through the windows, suggested habitation, a stark contrast to the wild chaos of the forest. The discovery of the cabin offered a momentary reprieve from their growing despair. As they approached, the reality of their situation weighed heavily upon them. They were intruders in this secluded haven, driven by necessity but wary of the implications. Their knock on the door, a tentative plea for help, went unanswered. The silence that followed was a heavy cloak, punctuated by their uneven breaths and the distant calls of the night. With a mutual, unspoken agreement, they crossed the threshold into the unknown, stepping into the cabin that promised shelter but harbored secrets untold. As they familiarized themselves with the cabin's interior, finding the sun-dried fruits and fresh water, they allowed themselves a moment of relief. Yet, the comfort was tinged with the guilt of their uninvited presence and the uncertainty of their host's return. Their decision to stay, justified by necessity, would soon unravel into a night of revelations and terror. Unbeknownst to Ethan and Mia, their refuge was the domain of a man whose past was as dark as the forest that concealed his retreat. Their search for safety had inadvertently led them into a web of secrets that would test their survival instincts and the very fabric of their relationship. The interior of the cabin offered a stark contrast to the wild disorder of the forest outside. Its walls, adorned with old photographs and hunting trophies, whispered tales of a life led in the solitude of nature. Ethan and Mia, still reeling from the day's events, found comfort in the cabin's rustic charm, yet the unease of their uninvited stay lingered like a shadow. As they settled in for the night, the cabin's walls, steeped in mystery, stood as silent witnesses to the unfolding drama. The couple, once jubilant adventurers, now found themselves ensnared in a narrative far beyond their wildest imaginings, teetering on the edge of a revelation that would change everything. As the night deepened, the cabin's cozy ambience began to shift. The initial relief of finding shelter slowly gave way to a growing sense of foreboding. Each creak and groan of the wooden structure seemed amplified in the silence, a constant reminder of their intrusion into a stranger's home. Ethan, in an attempt to lighten the mood, suggested they explore the cabin further, hoping to find some clue about the owner's return. Their search revealed a well-stocked pantry, maps of the surrounding area, and a collection of books on survival and espionage. These discoveries painted a picture of a man prepared for isolation, but skilled in matters far beyond the simple life they had imagined. As they continued to search for information about their unaware host, Mia found herself unable to shake the feeling of being watched. The isolation they had sought for adventure now felt oppressive, a cage of their own making. Their conversation, once filled with laughter and dreams, now tread carefully around their fears and the unspoken question of their host's identity. They found one piece of good news. In a tucked-away letter with the government seal on it, they read the name, James. They concluded that their unknown host's name was James, and he had connections to the government. The night was restless. Ethan and Mia took turns keeping watch, the unease of their situation denying them the comfort of sleep. It was during Mia's watch that the unexpected happened. A soft thud, barely audible over the wind's howl, echoed from the front of the cabin. Frozen Mia woke Ethan, and together they listened as the sound repeated, closer this time. Their hearts raced as they faced the realization that they were not alone. The owner they feared had returned. But as they braced themselves for a confrontation, the door remained undisturbed. The sounds, they realized, were not of footsteps, but of something, or someone, tampering with the cabin's exterior. The couple's fear turned to confusion as dawn approached, with no further disturbances. Their night of vigilance revealed no intruder, but the mystery of the nocturnal activity left them with more questions than answers. The morning brought with it a deceptive peace. The sunlight filtering through the cabin's windows offered a semblance of normalcy, but the events of the night lingered in Ethan and Mia's minds as they awaited the return of the cabin's owner. They debated their next steps, uncertain of the welcome they would receive from the cabin's owner. Their decision was made for them with the crunch of gravel underfoot, the unmistakable sound of someone approaching. The couple watched, hearts in their throats, as a figure emerged from the forest. The man who stood before them was the menacing figure they had imagined. James revealed himself not as a benign recluse, but as a man with a sinister past, a retired government agent whose expertise lay in tracking and neutralizing threats. However, his retirement was a facade, a cover for his ongoing clandestine activities. The couple's accidental intrusion into his domain was not something he could simply overlook. As the realization of their perilous situation dawned on them, James made it clear they could not leave. hinting at a game of cat and mouse in the vast wilderness surrounding the cabin. Ethan and Mia sought to make their escape, only to find James was one step ahead. Forced into the dense forest with James in pursuit, Ethan and Mia's desperation grew. The forest, once a place of natural beauty, now turned into a nightmarish maze. James, with his predatory skills honed over years of covert operations, moved through the trees like a shadow, his presence more felt than seen. Ethan and Mia, driven by primal fear, pushed their bodies to the limit, darting through dense underbrush and over tangled roots, their breaths coming in sharp gasps. It was in this moment of despair that they encountered Sam, a hiker who had stumbled upon the scene by chance. Quick to grasp the gravity of the situation, Sam took on the role of protector, guiding Ethan and Mia through the forest in an attempt to evade James's relentless pursuit. Sam, with his knowledge of the terrain and survival skills, provided a glimmer of hope. Yet as the chase ensued, it became apparent that James's skills were formidable. Sam, aware of the stakes, led them through the least predictable paths, hoping to use the forest's dense foliage as cover. He whispered instructions, his voice barely audible over the pounding of their hearts, guiding them towards what he hoped would be safety. They moved with a silent urgency, aware that any noise could betray their position to their relentless pursuer. James's tactics were cruel in their efficiency. He didn't rush the chase. Instead, he applied pressure with calculated menace, driving them towards traps he had set up in the forest. His familiarity with the terrain allowed him to anticipate their moves, corralling them like prey. The trio stumbled upon tripwires and narrowly avoided hidden pits, each escape a testament to Sam's keen observation skills and the couple's growing survival instincts. As night fell, the forest transformed. The darkness was not just a physical barrier, but a psychological one, amplifying fears and distorting senses. Ethan, Mia, and Sam found themselves not just fighting to navigate, but battling the terror that gripped them, with every unidentified sound and movement in the dark. In a heart-stopping moment, they were ambushed. James had circled ahead, lying in wait. The confrontation was brief and chaotic. Sam, in a desperate act of courage, tackled James, urging Ethan and Mia to run. The sounds of their struggle faded into the night as the couple fled, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of the sacrifice made on their behalf. The chase continued, a test of endurance and willpower. Ethan and Mia, driven by the memory of Sam's bravery, pushed through the pain and exhaustion. They could hear James moving through the forest, an omnipresent threat that refused to be shaken off. The realization that their adversary was toying with them, enjoying the hunt, added a layer of psychological torment to their physical ordeal. Their blind rush through the night was as much a flight from the terror of what James represented as it was a physical escape. The couple's desperation, their unwillingness to succumb to despair, propelled them forward, away from the immediate danger, but into the uncertainty of what lay ahead. In the aftermath of their harrowing escape from the natural enclosure, Ethan and Mia found themselves running blindly through the forest, fueled by adrenaline and the primal urge to survive. The forest around them was a blur of shadows and moonlight, each tree and obstacle a potential end to their desperate flight. Behind them, the sound of James's pursuit was a constant reminder of the danger nipping at their heels. As they navigated the treacherous terrain, the couple's thoughts were a tumultuous mix of fear, sorrow for Sam's sacrifice, and a fierce determination not to let his death be in vain. Their bodies were pushed to the brink of exhaustion, muscles aching and lungs burning with each gasping breath. Yet they pressed on, driven by the single-minded need to survive. The forest seemed endless, a maze with no exit, until they stumbled upon a clearing that offered a momentary reprieve from the oppressive trees. It was here, in the deceptive calm of the open space, that they encountered their next trial. The car, a small beacon of hope in the familiar, loomed in the distance. As they approached, the realization dawned that their ordeal was far from over. James, ever the strategist, had anticipated their return to the vehicle. The car's fuel tank was empty. Nevertheless, he rigged it with a sinister web of booby traps designed to capture or kill. Ethan, with a cautious eye and the remnants of hope dwindling, inspected the vehicle from a distance, his heart sinking as he recognized the signs of tampering. The realization that their escape route was compromised hit them with the force of a physical blow. The feeling of being so close to freedom, only to have it snatched away, was a cruel twist in their night of terror. They were trapped, with the wilderness on one side and a rigged escape on the other. Their deliberation on what to do next was cut short by the sound of James's approach. The hunter had become the inevitable force of nature, his presence a guarantee of their capture. With no options left, Ethan and Mia made the decision to confront their pursuer, to face the danger head-on in a desperate bid for survival. The confrontation was brief and intense, a final stand that tested the limits of their endurance and will to live. But James, with his skills honed through years of training and experience, was an adversary beyond their ability to overcome. The couple was subdued, their fight for freedom ending not with a victorious escape, but in capture. Bound and helpless, Ethan and Mia were transported from the site of their failed escape to an unknown location. The journey was a blur of motion and fear, each turn and bump in the road a reminder of their precarious situation. When they finally stopped, the doors opened to reveal a scene straight out of a nightmare. They were led into a sterile, clinical environment, the stark white lights and the smell of antiseptics, a stark contrast to the natural chaos of the forest they had left behind. Around them, figures in lab coats moved with purpose, their faces obscured and intentions unknown. James's role transitioned from pursuer to overseer, his final words to Ethan and Mia a chilling promise of a new phase in their ordeal. "Welcome to your new reality," he said, a grim smile playing on his lips as he turned to leave, leaving the couple in the hands of the scientists. As the lab doors closed behind James, Ethan and Mia were left to face the unknown. The scientists approached, their equipment ready, and the couple could only watch in horror and disbelief. Their fight for survival in the forest had led them to this moment, a sinister experiment that promised to push them beyond the boundaries of their understanding and endurance. Ethan and Mia, once ordinary people on a simple anniversary trip, now found themselves at the mercy of forces beyond their comprehension, in a moment suspended in time and filled with uncertainty. The forest, James, and the night of terror were behind them, but ahead lay a new darkness, one that promised to unveil the depths of human fear and resilience. What lies ahead for Ethan and Mia is a mystery, their fate a question left unanswered, their story a chilling reminder of the fragility of safety and the shadows that lurk just beyond the light of our understanding, concludes on a note of suspense that echoes in the silence of the unknown.